Hey, people of Earth, it's time to enter the Spoilerverse via our secret portal at the exclusive Arctic Club in beautiful downtown Seattle with our hosts, John and Kenric. Welcome to Spoiler Country.
Hey, if you're listening to our show for the first time and you're on one of the social medias that we're on, like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of those kinds of things, you should always check us out on spoilerverse.com. But if you want to keep up with our latest episodes, you should bring out your smartphone, get into your favorite podcatcher, find Spoiler Country, and hit subscribe. Then you'll get all our new stuff.
And if you want to reach out to us, you can do that in two ways. You can call us, leave us a voicemail at 707-656-2080. Again, 707-656-2080. Or you can shoot us an email at spoilercountry@gmail.com.
Treetop cutters and 1940s crooners. Let's do that again. Treetop pruners and 1940s crooners. Welcome back to Spoiler Country. I'm Kenric Regan. That is the invaluable Mr. Horsley. And today on the show, well, it's Dinesh Shamdasani, isn't it?
It is, man. He is formerly of Valiant. He was a producer on the Bloodshot movie, and he's the current owner of Bad Idea Comics.
Bad Idea. I love that name. Bad Idea Comics.
That is such a good name for a comic company.
Oh, yeah.
So great.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of yeah, I wish I would have thought of that name.
Right? We should go back in time and take it for ourselves.
Well, this is cool, man. He should be a lot of fun to chat with.
He is, yeah. And he sat down with Melissa, and they had a great time, man. And it's so much fun. They got into the weeds a little bit on stuff, but it's pretty good. It's awesome.
Yeah. I can't see anybody coming on and chatting with Melissa and not having a good time.
I agree. I can't see anybody come on to any of our interviewers and not having a good time because we're all so different.
Except for Casey. I can see that one.
Yeah, I mean, fuck Casey, but you know.
Whoa, dude, you took it to a level, man.
Sorry, Casey, I love you. Here's Kickstarter for your child, not chili. Go check it out.
Oh, man. Oh. Well, this should be really good, and it should be a lot of fun. Dinesh has, quite the history, so why don't we just get into it and listen to him and Melissa in their own words.
Let's do it.
This is Spoiler Country, and I'm Melissa Sercha. Today on the show, I get to chat with film and TV producer and comic book publisher, Dinesh Shamdasani. Dinesh, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here today. How are you doing?
Good. Very excited to be chatting with you.
Awesome. We are too. I'm very excited. There's so much I want to talk to you about. You've awesome. Created and been a part of so many cool projects. You studied film at USC, then became the CEO and chief creative officer of Valiant. How did you get into this business? How did you step into that role?
At Valiant, it's funny. Entertainment is such a weird industry that I feel like everyone's story is unique. It's like you've got to find a way through this brick wall. And once you find a way in, somehow the industry just shuts it behind you and no one else can go that way. My way was, I went to USC Film School and I was very lucky. I got some advice when I was at USC, which was don't worry about going to school. Just try and meet as many people in the industry using that credibility as possible. And so I did the thing which a lot of students do, which is you pretend that you've graduated before you have, and you try and get internships and jobs, etc. And I very quickly learned that there was a very difficult path in the film and TV world. And it was around the time that IP was starting to become a thing with Spider-Man, the first film, the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi film, and the first X-Men film, both coming out and nobody in the business really understanding what was going on, why they were making so much money. And every comic book fan in the world was 5 minutes ahead of Hollywood. Yep. And I thought I'd better take advantage of this. And so I was thinking to myself, what happened to Valiant? Valiant was my favorite. I was a kid of the 90s and I didn't know Marvel beyond really the biggest. I didn't really know comics beyond Spider-Man, the Hulk, Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
Maybe X-Men with the cartoons. So when I got into comic books, Valiant was just as legitimate as everything else to me. And I just gravitated towards that. It had an energy to it. So I was trying to figure out what had happened to it. I learned that they had been bought by a video game company called Acclaim, that Acclaim had, over the years, published more books, but then Acclaim went out of business. They had some bad video game decisions that they made, and they took every division down, including Valiant. And that luckily for me at that point, there was going to be an auction, a bankruptcy auction for all the different assets, including Valiant. And I had no inclination that I was going to win this, but I thought I'll learn something. I'll go. It might be fun. I called a buddy of mine who I grew up with in Hong Kong, who had very wealthy parents, and convinced him to come in with me and be the money. And we went to this due diligence, read all the documents. And I was very lucky in the sense that I think it was 86 parties did due diligence, all the biggest companies, Google, Sony, everyone, Marvel.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah. So of course we expected they'll all come to the auction, they'll win. But when we went to the auction, there was only 3 parties, including us. There was the former CEO of Acclaim, there was us, and then there was a guy who used to be a marketing manager at Marvel. Wow. And what had happened is the legal documents were so messy that no one felt like they knew what they were bidding on. But being basically a college student, I had the time to go and meet all the former employees at Acclaim in the publishing division and get a sense of what we were bidding on, which was actually pretty clean. We were getting almost all the rights.
Wow.
Still came in second. And the day that the auction ended, there was a 4th party that couldn't afford to bid, that had filed intent to use trademark applications, essentially blackmailing the winner. So the lead bidder pulled out.
Oh my God.
The trustees went to the Acclaim seat, the former CEO of Acclaim. He had put his money elsewhere. So they came to us. We were the only party left. We said, great, big reduced price now. We're about to get into a legal fight. And being a kid, I thought, oh, I'll figure this out. And then spent the next 8 years trying to figure out how to win this fight, how to publish. It was a mountain of bad days.
Wow,
and learning.
8 years. That's incredible. And how long did you end up running Valiant? Because I did read that, at some point there was another company that came in and bought it. So how long did you spend with Valiant?
I was at 15 years. So I spent the first 18 years being a fan of comic books, not knowing how to publish, not knowing anyone in the business, trying to learn it, trying to figure out how publishing worked. And then the best thing that happened to us, the best thing that happened to Valiant when I was there, was the sale of Marvel to Disney. So what happened was Marvel was sold to Disney for $4.4 billion. And a lot of the big executives that had run Marvel cashed out. And there was a man named Peter Cunha, who's the CEO of Marvel. And I got a hold of the Harvard Business School case study on Marvel, the Marvel story, which is about Peter and his philosophy on how to bring Marvel back from their bankruptcy. And I'd use that as my Bible for how to try and structure Valiant. And so when he cashed out, we approached him through his son, Gavin. They were looking to do something together, and spent about 6 months to a year convincing them and then negotiating with them to come in and be our partners. And at the same time, starting to put together the management team, the editor-in-chief, the head of marketing, head of sales, etc. And so when Peter came in, he gave us the legitimacy and the financing to at least start that process. And we got to launch the company in 2012. So I was there for 7 more years publishing, 8 years trying to figure out how to publish, 7 years publishing.
Wow.
And as we were there for 7 years, we would raise money and we brought other investors on board. Eventually, one of our investors, a Chinese company named DMG, liked the business so much, they decided that they needed to own it completely.
Wow.
And so they did that.
Okay. And that was that something that you were okay with, or that was the way it was?
It wasn't something I was okay with. It was a hostile, aggressive situation.
Oh no.
The entire time I was at Valiant, the entire 15-year period, I cannot think of a day where someone wasn't trying to buy the company out from me or get me fired, fire me, take over. Because it's such a valuable asset. It's such a rare thing. What the original Valiant creators, Jim Shooter, Bob Layton, Brandon Smith, David Lapham, all these comic book geniuses built is really, really special. And doesn't have the awareness and strength of Marvel or DC, but it's probably the closest comp to those of everything else.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And it was like a really dusty, dirty diamond that when we got it, we're like, there's a diamond underneath all this crud. And as we started to clean it up, people started to see that. And so DMG came in, and initially we were looking for a film financing partner. We went out to about 70 different companies, basically the same list that was looking at bidding on the Valiant assets.
Yeah.
And we got 3 offers, one from Amazon, one from the WWE, the wrestling company, and one from DMG. And DMG was by far the richest offer with the least controls. And so we said, great, we'll take them. We'll take this deal. And over time, they decided that they wanted to be more and more in the film and TV world. And Valiant was doing very well publishing, and we had a lot of things we had announced, like the Russo brothers and the Bloodshot movie, Vin Diesel, etc. They wanted to get more and more involved. And I had the controls myself to keep them at bay, and they started to buy up other investors. And then I had the controls of Peter, keep them at bay. And then ultimately, they made a very, very lucrative offer. And Peter's an investor, and Gavin's an investor. And they said, we're going to take this. But they were very gracious about it. They said, look, you should think about taking this too. So I took a day, and I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to tell them I'm going to take it. I'm going to try to kill the deal.
Yeah.
I spent a year trying to kill the deal, and I just didn't have the momentum. But it was a good situation. It's one of those things. I love Valiant. It was the dream come true. I would have worked there for free the rest of my life. Ultimately, I did very well financially, and now I'm much happier. I have so much opportunity, and I'm getting to do so many cool things.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And sometimes everything, happens for a reason and leads you to better opportunities, like you were saying. And, and I was going to ask you about Bloodshot. So you were still with Valiant when Bloodshot was made, the film, or?
Yeah, yes and no. So Bloodshot we started developing the Bloodshot film in 2008.
Oh, wow.
Before we even started publishing. And we went through all sorts of incarnations. I mean, at one point, Will Smith was going to play Bloodshot, if you can imagine that. Michael Bay was directing it. There was a long period where Matthew Vaughn was directing it. And these things happen in Hollywood. It's a very interesting process, and you get to meet a lot of fascinating people. And the movie we got to a place where everyone was very excited and wanted to make the movie. Sony, I mean. And we were casting, and we needed they needed someone with weight to carry the film, the star. And we were talking to a bunch of different actors, Michael B. Jordan, Jared Leto, Jake Gyllenhaal, Vin Diesel, and Tom Rothman, the head of Sony. His favorite for the role was Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
In mine too, although I had to keep that secret. And we locked Vin, and that essentially got the movie greenlit. And that was about the same week that DMG managed to close the deal. And of course, the first thing, and part of the deal, of course, was that I had to resign. And I had built film and TV agreements as the CEO and as arm's length agreements. And a lot of publishers will tie themselves to the agreements. I tried not to do that. I tried to run the company in a very business forward way, which I think was part of our success as well. And so, of course, I was a designee. There was designees for who would produce the movie. The board, as long as the board approved, I was the designee. They wanted me to be the designee. And of course, once DMG takes over, they want their people to be the designee.
Of course.
And so I got the call from Sony, from our executive at Sony, who was basically in tears because we'd worked together for so long and we have a really, really good relationship with friends, saying, they're telling me you have to be off the movie. It's contractual. It's something I can do. I told her, look, I totally expected. I get it. It's okay. It's heartbreaking, of course, but it's okay. She was like, we're going to fight this. We're going to fight this. I don't know how we're going to fight this. We're going to figure it out. But I ended up being back on the movie. So I missed about 4 weeks. What happened was our director, Dave Wilson, was a first-time director, but he's had a huge, vast swath of experience doing these super high-end video game trailers, commercials, video game little short stories, doing things for The Division, Star Wars, the Halo, the biggest brands.
Wow.
He's a genius. And our writer, Eric Heiser, has been nominated for an Academy Award for Arrival, and he wrote Bird Box, and is now show running this big show on Netflix, and had written comic books for us as well. Got together, and they went to Sony, and they said, essentially, we want to put the weight of our leverage on the table. In fact, what happened, I actually haven't said this publicly. I hope Eric doesn't get upset with me. But what happened is the studio wanted Eric to come back and do some last minute rewrites and do some production work on the script. And Eric was very busy. He didn't have the time for it. But once he found out, I hadn't told him. I was embarrassed. I hadn't told him that I wasn't on the movie anymore. David told him. And Eric called the studio and said, hey, I've been thinking about it. I know you guys want me back on the movie. I will do the work you need me to do. In fact, I will also do the production work, and I will be there for as much as you want. Of course, the studio's very happy, and I will do it all for free. The studio's like, what's going on here? So I just have one condition. And they said, what's this is the story I've been told. What's the condition? And he said, I need Dinesh back on the movie.
Oh, wow.
And what I was told is that there was silence. And then I think it was Sanford Panich or Orange Giannetti, the heads of Sanford Panich is the president of production, and Orange was our executive. One of them said, I love me a gangster move. You've got a deal. And then I got the call. And it upset DMG enough that they decided not to be involved.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And so
Eric and Dave are great.
fortunate like that you have so many. I mean, that just is a testament to your character and, your working, ethics. That's so, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that many people would like stick up for you like that. That's awesome. And yeah, because
it's a very rare story in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You usually hear the opposite.
Very true. You hear about people getting the opposite, closed doors and turning their backs on people. So that's a really nice story. Thank you for sharing that with me, actually.
It was very freeing as well because it gave me the ability to essentially just pour myself into the movie and do whatever it took. And also it gave me the ability to say to people, like, this is why I'm working so hard. This is why I'm willing to sign this check over here. It's why I'm willing to go over here. It's why I'm willing to do this. And it allowed me to, much like when I was running Valiant, help get other people to race at that level. Yeah. And that was a really, really invaluable experience to be able to learn how to do that on a film set.
That's awesome. And now will you be doing a sequel?
I can't talk. Yes, I can't talk about it because I'm going to get in trouble.
Okay.
But I can say that we got a raw deal because of COVID. As a lot of people have in a lot of different industries.
100%. Yeah.
The movie came out the COVID weekend where literally from our Friday to our Saturday, they were reducing seating capacity by 50%. So there was no way to win, which is frustrating because we had a premiere on Tuesday, which was a big highlight day for me and the whole movie. And our executive at Sony was saying, okay, so Tuesday, keep the afternoon free. The tracking is looking really good. We're looking like we're going to open 26 million. We want to sit down and talk about sequel if that happens. So here we are at the premiere on Tuesday thinking, oh my God, the studio just said sequel. We got a meeting potentially on the books.
Nice.
And then the Thursday is, okay, the numbers are going down. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday was like, not 26 anymore. It's 22, it's 20, it's 18, 17, 16, 12, 11, 8. We ultimately opened at 11. But it's become Sony's, what I'm being told is Sony's number one VOD film of all time. And I think number 2 on home video. And so now they're being very aggressive about doing something more.
Good. Well, that's good that they're understanding about, the situation because the press on it was pretty intense. I remember seeing, trailers for it every 5 minutes, on television. So it was definitely like not lacking in marketing, Yeah,
they felt very strong about it. They saw the early tracking numbers and they saw a win. They would try to push for it.
Well, and you can't, Vin Diesel, I believe, is the perfect, person for the role. And he has so much box office draw that, you really couldn't have expected more if you had anyone else.
We were lucky. We were very lucky to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also co-founded Hivemind, which produced, shows like The Expanse and The Witcher. How did that concept come about? How did you, put that together?
So I had some people that I was working with when I was at Valiant, 2 producers by the name of Sean Daniel and Jason Brown. And we were working on several films together and we became friends and we had a very shared philosophy and we would talk extensively about, I was very fascinated by their world, their choice in life to be a producer. It's difficult, very difficult path. And there was a time when it was a different kind of thing. It was lucrative and it wasn't as difficult. And as corporations have come in and the movie business has changed to produce less movies and things have moved to television, it's become a very difficult job. We would talk about that and they would have the same point of view. And it just felt like producing was a 20th century job and that there was an opportunity to do it in a 21st century way. And so when I left, and we talked about maybe one day we'll try that. So when I left Valiant, they said, hey, why don't we do this? Yeah. And they knew a very successful veteran, very respected television producer by the name of Kathy Ling. And she had started J.J. Abrams' television division and produced all these amazing television shows, Fringe and Lost, etc. So the 4 of us sat down and we thought, let's try something different. Usually production companies are run by one person at the top, whether they're a producer or an actor or a director, someone who spearheads it and it's their taste, but also the company is limited by their taste, limited by their bandwidth, limited by their relationships, right? The old adage is in Hollywood, it's who you know.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, what if we, the 4 of us, pool those 3 things? We pool our taste, we have broader taste, pool our relationships, we have more relationships, pool our bandwidth. As long as we don't have an ego about this, we share. Not everyone needs to be cutting everything, but the goal is, as we're publishing, everyone's cup runneth over overall. Maybe there's a way to do this. And we found we were very successful 6 months in, which is the first year into a new production company, if you have one thing going into production, It's a miracle.
Yeah.
6 months in, we had 4 things. We had The Witcher went to production. Sean and Jason had been producing The Expanse. It was canceled at Sci-Fi. We all worked together to bring it over to Amazon. Got it renewed for a 4th and 5th season. Now they're doing a 6th. That went to production.
That's incredible.
Bloodshot went into production. And Scary Stories Tell in the Dark with Guillermo del Toro as our producing partner went into production.
Oh, wow.
And so the 4 partners had to each go to a different continent, essentially, to manage these productions.
Yeah. And they've all been extremely successful, particularly, The Expanse and The Witcher. And The Expanse,
The
Witcher just blew up. And I played the video game. And I'm sure a lot of people did. And then there were people that had no idea that it was a video game and just thought this was like a really cool show, about magic and medieval, times. But, The Expanse is at an interesting journey, as you said, because it was canceled and brought to Amazon Prime. And I actually just interviewed Karina Becco, who did the comic book a few days ago. And, so yeah, it's just a really interesting how it has like this cult following, all these people, all the fans sort of like rallied together to be like, no, we don't want this to be canceled. And that's amazing, the power that has.
Well, there were people with Sean and Jason spearheaded that. They've been producing that for years, but it was just for all of us fascinating to watch. We would get texts from Amazon saying, did you do this? Do what? And they're showing us photos of fans flying planes outside the Amazon offices with banners that say Save the Expanse. It was really amazing. It's a testament, I think, we tried to do it at Valiant too, just build something that there is no substitute for in any medium. And if you look at The Expanse, if you love hard sci-fi, there's nothing anywhere else doing that. The books do it, and the show does it. Absolute hard physics, hard science fiction, but with the storytelling point of view.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing like it out there at all.
Yeah,
not currently. And speaking of comic books, so I nice segue here. So I'm really excited to talk to you about your new comic book publishing company, which I love the name of it, Bad Idea. So many great things you can go off on that. So it's an interesting concept because you have select retailers, no digital issues, no variants. You're just putting out 2 issues a month. What inspired this completely different, kind of off the wall, if you don't mind me saying?
It came from, it was a couple of things. And I think everyone at Bad Idea has a slightly different version of the origin story. So I'll tell you my impetus for it.
Okay.
Valiant was very hard. We were playing Moneyball. We were trying to punch above our weight. We were a tiny little publisher with tiny little resources trying to compete with Marvel as best as we could, or as close to Marvel as we could. And I think we did a great job. I think we set a ton of sales records. Often we were the number 1 independent publisher. We were the de facto best reviewed publisher in the business the entire time I was there. And it just meant really just throwing man hours at it, throwing talent, just outworking. And that was tough, but it was also super fun. And you really build relationships in a different way in that method. And so I was very sad to not be able to make comics anymore, because it's just such adrenaline hit. You're coming up with an idea, and 60 days later it's on the stand, versus 2008, you have an idea for something in the movie, and 2019 the movie comes out, and 2020, the movie comes out, and you don't even remember why did that there. So I wanted to get back into comics, and I also wanted to work with my friends. I wanted to work with some of my partners at Bad Idea, Warren Simons, who was our editor-in-chief at Valiant, Josh Johns, who ran the Valiant digital division, Adam Freeman, who was an Eisner award-winning retailer and head of sales at Valiant, Hunter Goranson, who was a head of marketing at Valiant, and then all the creatives that we just, I think they're super talented, and they're all friends. Matt Kint, Jeff Lemire, Eric Heiser, Louis LaRosa, Thomas Giorello, Rob Diddy, Josh Dysart, a slew of them. And we just it was a bunch of friends wanting to get together again. And that's one half of it. And the other half is, Valiant we were never the number 1 book in the industry, because we just were never going to be. We don't have Wolverine or Batman. We were easily, many times, by far, the number 1 independent book. And oftentimes we would beat The Walking Dead, which is just a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
I was very proud of the team. And we checked a lot of boxes. One of the boxes we didn't get to check, because we didn't build the house. We just rebuilt it. The house was built by the original creators of Valiant. So there was this checkbox. If you look at the list of things to accomplish in publishing, I kind of felt like, wow, we had this foundation. So much harder if you don't have that Could we do it? Is it possible? Do we have the skills? Let's try. And then having accomplished all this other stuff, it's kind of boring to do it again. So we thought, well, maybe we try something different. And also without the burden, the benefit of Valiant is you have all those characters. The disadvantage is you have all those characters.
Yeah.
So you've got to fight the 90s. You've got to fight people's preconceived notions. You've also got to fight all the stuff that's already been built. Like, we're going to do variants. We're going to go to San Diego Comic Con. We're going to do digital.
Mm-hmm.
So we took a look at the business and said, is there, like Hive Mind, I'm thinking about it, is there a 21st century model? And so digital, for instance, and Valiant was such a small component, ultimately, of our sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is for a lot of publishers. Publishers don't like to talk about it. And most of that we found was sampling. It was people buying the first issue digitally, liking it, and then going and buying the first issue again physically, and then reading the series physically.
Mm-hmm.
We thought it isn't that much work to also be digital, but it's not worth the effort. Or trades, for instance. Trades are great. There's a whole audience that waits for trades, but the trades are sold differently than monthly comic books. They're not sold returnable.
Mm.
So they're sold returnable, I should say. So you've got this huge inventory. You've got to worry about returns. You've got to overprint. You've got to store those prints, those extra copies. And even a company like Valiant, in a few short years, you're sitting on 7 figures of inventory in a warehouse. And that's money that can go towards other things that, frankly, I think are more important, like the quality of the books.
Yeah.
So we just tried to hack, essentially, publishing.
That's interesting. Yeah. People don't often think of it in those terms of like as a business side, as you were saying, of all these, books just sitting in warehouses and you can't sell them, you have them and they were returned or whatever. And I think that, people just don't know how that really works, logistically. And if you want to keep a company afloat and still making money and be able to pay your employees, you have to have, profit.
Yeah. But it's also speed. Everyone that works in publishing gets together at conventions, and eventually you're drinking and you all just kind of opine about, oh, you've got that much in inventory. Let me tell you how much we got in inventory. And you talk about all the other things that are problematic. And it all boils down to one thing. Everyone in publishing is trying to outrun this panther that's chasing you. It's about how quickly can you build the company? How much can you build awareness? How much can you build the next hit before this, because publishing is a very narrow margin business.
Mm-hmm.
Comes and takes you down. And so everything that we're trying to do about that idea is about giving ourselves as much runway as we can so that we don't have to worry as much about that and we can worry about the books. We've tried to give ourselves a place where if the books don't sell well, that's okay. They're good. Yeah. They found their audience. It's not that we're not building books that I think everyone's going to like, but we're building books that some people are going to absolutely love. And a lot of these components, they sound silly. They sound like bad ideas. Hence the name of the company.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's clever, and, are you concerned because, you have these select retailers, I went online and I searched and I wanted to see, okay, I'm in California. So I was like, okay, where are the locations in California? And, it's limited. Are you concerned at all that like people that really want your content aren't going to be able to get it? Like, especially in the pandemic right now where, a lot of people are ordering online because, they can't leave their house or for whatever reason. Are you trying to expand that distribution, still keeping it self-distributed, but expanding like the reach that you have?
Yeah, I'm not concerned that people, let me put it this way. The bet that we're making is that we shouldn't be concerned that people that really want it are going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do the extra work. They're not going to be happy about it. They're going to be a little annoyed with us. And we have to make sure that the books are good enough and that they're full enough that they're worth the effort. But we're always looking at ad stores. We have 6 rules, bad idea rules that stores have to adhere by.
Okay.
And again, these are kind of like a 21st century hack. And we thought retailers would be much more upset with this. They've all been very generous about it. And what we found is that the stores that have come on board, we've got 154 stores in our first wave, and we'll be announcing our second wave actually very soon. We've got another about 40, 50 stores there. The stores that have come on board happen to be the stores that are the most aggressive, the most forward-thinking, do the best hand selling. They're the stores that, frankly, will do the best with our books. Because at Valiant, we found that there were stores that, because people, I don't know if people know, not all stores are the same. Some stores are 20% comics, 20% Yu-Gi-Oh, 20% Pokemon, 20% video game. They're diverse. Some stores are just Marvel. They didn't even sell DC. There are stores that literally will only sell Marvel books. That's their audience.
Wow.
And a store that's just a Marvel store or a store that's a Marvel DC store, they really have no business selling Valiant or Bad Idea books. And it's a waste of their time and our time to try and have that relationship. But they're nice people. They feel bad. They see us at Comics Pro. They always talk to us. I'm having trouble. And what can I do? What are the best practices? And you really just want to say, you know what? Don't worry, man. We'll have a drink, but we don't have to. You don't have to buy any of our books. And this is a way to do that. What that allows us to do then is, again, just like the trades, is say to the 154 stores that we have, 250 locations that they have, we can double down on you. So one of the things we did, for instance, is we sent these ridiculous, giant, gaudy gold frames, like out of Mad Magazine, that they have to put up in their walls in a prominent place, and we're going to send them a new poster every month. We couldn't do that with every store in the world. It would be too much money. But when you have stores that are doubling down on your company, doubling down on your books, you can go the extra mile. You can do things that you can't do everywhere. And I think what will happen, and actually this week we got our first orders in for our first book. We're seeing it already. We're getting a better response there. The percentage is so much higher that the net is very much worth it.
Okay. So it's kind of like dangling this carrot, in front of them and saying like, this is a better product and we're going to make you jump through hoops. And then as a result, it's kind of like what they do in luxury branding in a sense, where it makes it more viable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. There's pieces from luxury branding. There's pieces from things like sneaker culture and design toy culture. And then there's pieces from things like the disruptive nature of, Dollar Shave Club, where, you can't just go to your Walgreens and buy a Dollar Shave Club blade, but you've got to go online. You've got to run through an extra couple steps, but the product is better. You're saving money. They can advertise in a different way. And ultimately, they don't need to be in Walgreens. They do better without it. So there's a bunch of different things we're trying to pull from.
Okay. And as far as, the requirements go for the comic book shops, are they allowed to mail a comic book to someone, or do they have to come into the store to buy it?
What we're trying to do, and I'll give you some examples, we're trying to foster a physical comics in comic store experience. They are allowed to mail order the books. We understand that there are people in countries that we may not have a store for the first year or two. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe never. We don't want to exclude anybody. We do want them to work a little harder to get them. Mail order is not something that today, with the internet and with easy access to everything, is an easy thing to do. It's a little bit of work. So we do allow stores to mail order. They cannot, though, send the books out until the day of release. So the people that are mail ordering won't get them in their hands prior to release or on the day of the release. It may be a few days later. And so that's one of the annoying things. It's a little bit of a throwback, frankly, to a pre-internet culture, pre-digital culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I grew up in a world without the internet, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's something that, look, we're not only analog. There are components of what we do that are very forward-thinking and very new and hopefully innovative in a good way. But there are some components, and one of the things that I like about what we're doing is that extra work ends up being part of the narrative, ends up being part of the experience. I remember having to chase down a copy of a movie that I was excited to watch, and the 6-month chase, or even if it was 6 days, added to the experience. It heightened the anticipation. And so if we can do a little bit of that, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I actually stood in the rain at like 2 a.m. for a PS3.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And now you go on Amazon and you just click refresh until one pops up.
Exactly.
Then it comes in the mail.
Yeah.
And there's something lost there. Not everything has to be that way, but maybe some of our books will be like that.
Yeah. No, I like that. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, like new generations, they don't understand that, like, because of the times now. But I like that it's kind of a throwback in a sense to, it's kind of nostalgic in a way.
Yeah, yeah. We're seeing quite a few. We have a bunch of different mechanisms to help the stores get pre-orders and to make sure, because it's a new idea, we're trying to connect the two pieces. We're seeing the age group for our books a lot lower than we would have expected. And what we're seeing is that the younger readers or the younger buyers they don't quite understand that this is a throwback. They just think it's like new and kitschy and different. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
They think we've invented this.
It's retro.
Yeah.
Futuristic retro.
Right. Exactly.
So getting into the actual content itself, how are you going about selecting creators? Are you doing a submission process, or is it an invite only, just people you know? How does that work?
Well, we don't publish a lot. So we publish no more than 2 books a month, which is a tiny, tiny amount. To give you a sense, Marvel publishes, I think, over 100 books a month.
Yeah.
DC's, I think, 70, 80, although that seems to be changing potentially. There's rumors going around. No, we have, obviously, having worked in the business a long time, everyone at the company has relationships. We have writers and artists, et cetera, that we love and we're excited about. But there's a lot of new blood as well that we're always looking to expand. Some of it is submission. Some of it is people that we see their work either at a convention or online. Some of it are recommendations from people that we're already working with. Some people are just people that we're like, hey, we haven't worked with this guy in a long time. We hear he's coming up for air. His book is finishing up. Let's call him and see what he or she's doing.
Nice. And are you doing, like some of the larger companies like Marvel and DC, they do like exclusive contracts with people. Are you doing any of that, or is everyone freelance and can do other things? Part of
it, there's actually 2 answers to this. And I might upset a lot of the other publishers by revealing something here. The writers were built, again, 2 issues a month. We cannot support even one writer's entire workflow. And so we encourage everyone to be working in all the other things that they want to do, and to come here and do this. And it's a specific thing, but not to worry about being exclusive here. Now, the artists are different. The artists really only can draw a book a month, often at best. And so de facto putting them on a book makes them exclusive. And so what you'll probably see from us in the next couple of months is a couple of announcements saying so-and-so is an exclusive artist. And yeah, they are, but not technically. I mean, technically they're not. It's just that they can't physically draw more than 1 book a month. So
right.
The fact that they're exclusive.
Humanly
in
possible,
that way, every artist is exclusive.
Okay.
But it's not at Valiant. We were worried about being a feeder system for Marvel and DC, and DC very much, Dan DiDio especially. He had every one of the Valiant books on order and read them straight away. And they would immediately call anyone new. It got to the place where we would announce somebody and he'd call them, trying to bring them over to DC. He was such a fan of the books, which is so flattering. But we were in this war because we don't want to be, you see it a lot in sports, the smaller team that's punching above their weight becomes a feeder for the bigger, well-moneyed team. So we would put a lot of the people that we were bringing on board, and we were excited about exclusives. I think at one point we had 40 exclusive writers and artists.
Oh, wow.
But that's a different process here. We're actually doing the opposite here.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just completely like bending the norm. Well, what we know of the norm now, I guess. But I think that's really interesting. And it could be something that other people might even copy, in the future, to be honest.
But potentially, yeah. I mean, I think some of the great gift so far for Bad Idea has been that everything that we've predicted, all the projections that we made, we've exceeded them tremendously. We have 154 retailers that launched, 254 locations. We had budgeted for 25. We thought there's 25 retailers that either are our friends and will feel pity for us or will think this is cool.
Yeah.
To be 10 times that, the sales numbers that we just got, I mean, we have a huge problem that we're going to have to solve this weekend at Bad Idea, which is we haven't printed enough copies for the orders that just came in. So I'm not really entirely sure what we're going to do. We have to figure that out. That's a champagne problem to have.
Yeah.
But I think no matter what happens with Bad Idea, it'll be interesting. It may be an interesting, spectacular crash, failure, or it may be something that maybe a lot of other people pick the pieces of and say that's innovative, and we're going to try that too.
Yeah. Have you had any pushback from people in the industry that are like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't going to work?
We haven't had pushback. We've had a lot of this isn't going to work. When now with the pandemic, we've all been essentially under house arrest, right?
Yeah.
But before that, when we would see them at conventions or at the comic industry events, we would see the other publishers and they would just, kind of elbow us and be like, what are you guys doing? It's not going to work. It's crazy. What are you really doing? What's the real plan here? They think that we're just saying this and that we're not actually going to fall through. And we're like, no, this is why it's going to work. And you sit down and talk to them and they go, that's so crazy. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen any. I expected a lot more pushback, but we haven't expected retailers to get upset with us. One of the rules that we have in the company is you can't sell any of the books for more than cover price for the first 30 days.
Oh, wow.
We don't, because we're in select stores, because it's going to be hard to get our books we're of course aware that there's a speculative culture to comics. We don't want to feed into that. We don't want to build a limited edition manufactured collectibles. And so we're insisting that any store that sells our books can only sell them for cover price for first 30 days. That hopefully will stamp out that initial kind of speculative bubble. And we're going to be very, very aggressive about it. Anyone breaks those rules, then they're out.
Yeah. Well, and in an interesting sense, though, with such, a limited amount of retailers currently, that may change in the future. And if the books take off, in a sense, they are kind of collectibles, right? Because they're hard to get.
Yeah. My personal hope is that we grow slowly and people look back in a year or 2 or 3 and say, wow, when they first started, 154 stores, that's not a lot. That's a very small percentage of the stores in just America, let alone the world.
Yeah.
There won't be that many of them. These books are really hard to get, and I really want them because this company is a vibrant, exciting company, and I want to have their whole line.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll probably have people selling them on eBay for like $300.
We did put one book out in talking about everything we're doing seems to break our projections. We put one book out called The Hero Trade, which we kind of did as a little test, but also during the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty for comic book stores, and we wanted to help them as part of the community. We knew we hadn't put a book out yet, and there was a little excitement. So we had an 8-page story. All of our books are going to come with 8-page stories in the back. That's one of the things we're doing to try and say, we know you had to work a little harder. Here's a little extra.
Yeah.
Hopefully to make a little up for it. We had an 8-page story that Matt Kint wrote and David Lapham drew that we were absolutely in love with. And we said, what if we just print this as a little 8-pager on cheap paper stock and send it in almost like an ash can? Actually, Mark Nathan, who's a retailer, comics, cards, and collectibles, was saying to us, you guys should do an ash can. People could sell it for $20, $30, $40, and it'll help the stores out. So we said, okay, we'll do that. But we kind of have a bad idea tone that we try and hit. So what we did is we came up with this kind of mean idea. We sent one to every one of our 154 stores with a letter. And the envelope it did not say bad idea. The book does not say bad idea. And the letter doesn't say bad idea. The letter says, hey, this is our first comic book. Technically true. We love your store. Also true. Can you please sell this? Put on your shelf and sell it for $3.99. And if you want more, they're $3 a piece. Email theherotrade@gmail.com. And we were trying to make it look like kind of a self-published, almost like a zine. Maybe someone who had shopped at the store for years, was in love with comics, made their own comic book, and sent it in saying, hey, can you please sell it? And stores get this a lot. So we thought, well, maybe we'll fool them. And we also know the direct market isn't really set up to take a chance on an unknown tiny little book.
Yeah.
And David Lapham, who's an absolute genius and has an incredible style, if you don't look for too long, if you look just at a glance, you could think, oh, this is a super talented kid from SCAD that just started. And we put the book out there, and only 4 stores emailed us and said, want more copies.
Wow.
One of them, I think, gambled that this was Lapham trying to do something interesting. The other 3 just thought it was interesting. Combined, I think 60, 70 copies were ordered from those 4 stores. And then once the order deadline passed, we announced on Twitter that our first Bad Idea book's in stores. And no one believed us. And we said it's called The Hero Trade. And no one believed us. Then we put a picture up of it. And no one believed us except for the store owners who were like, oh, no. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Why are you so upset? And they're like, oh, I think I threw that away. Or, oh, my God, let me go fish it out of my dollar box.
Oh, my God.
And it was just an explosion. And that book now, we couldn't believe it. That book became it has to be one of the most talked about books last year. It's a $1,500 book if you can even find a copy.
Oh my gosh. What an interesting
Insanity.
Experiment too, to go that route. And now everyone that listens to this is going to be like, I'm going to pretend I'm and start sending my stuff.
But I think part of the success is Matt and David did it. It's an amazing story that really gives you a hint of this broader narrative. It's the premise is there's this guy, kind of like a Quentin Tarantino type character, and a low life. He's driving around in his car, and in the trunk he's got a superhero, like a Superman type. He's driving from criminal organization to criminal organization, saying, "I got the biggest superhero in the world. My trunk here. He's dead. I'm going to cut him up. I'm going to sell pieces. You want the legs? $2 million. You want the eyes? 50,000. 10,000. I can give you a thumb." And he's going to do this for one night. He's going to get the money. He's going to go off and live in paradise. And I think that really captured people's imaginations. And they were really excited about it. And we had we had complaints from stores saying, I don't know what you've done. My phone, I had to turn my phone off. It wouldn't stop ringing because I'm one of 154 stores. One store had so many requests, they decided to rip the book, every page apart, laminate every page, just so people would stop asking them. They could come into the store and read it if they wanted.
Wow.
Wonderful decision.
That's a huge compliment, and it also kind of shows you too how there's a little bit of like snobbery, because the book was obviously written by super talented people and, drawn by super talented people. And for stores to be like, oh, I don't want this because there's no name attached to it. You know what I mean? It kind of shows you that side of things as well.
But I think also they just don't have the time. It's such a hard job. These people are deciding what they're going to order 4 months ahead before the marketing cycle is even started. That's how far ahead they have to order. And they don't know if it's going to be a torrential rainstorm the week that the book hits and no one's going to come in. They don't know if it's going to come in damaged. And they've got to do this for thousands and thousands of products every week. Yeah. And then they've got to be expected to read all the books, because even when I go to a store, how's this one?
Yeah.
You got to think they're like, well, got too much work. So there's no way they can even look at it.
I would be a terrible comic book shop owner because I would just buy everything. I just love to, read, and I would just buy it all.
And I think some of the unfortunate ones that don't last very long, they do that. I would be a terrible store owner.
Yeah.
Gives me the heebie-jeebies just even thinking about all that stress.
Oh yeah. No, I would never survive that. Well, and the first comic book that you have coming out with Bad Idea is releasing soon, right? I mean, you had the pre-order for it. When's that coming out? And kind of tell me a little bit about like what it's about. I read some stuff on it, but I'd love to hear in your own words.
It's coming out the first Wednesday of March 3rd, 2021. It's called ENIAC. ENIAC's a real thing. It stands for Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer.
Cool.
And it's a real computer that was built. It's the world's first supercomputer, built in the 40s. And Matt Kint came up with this idea and wrote the script. Doug Braithwaite is drawing it. Diego Rodriguez culling it. Great cover from Luis LaRosa and Laura Martin. And the premise is this. It's kind of set in the real world, but it veers off. The premise is, the backstory is 1940s, during World War II. The Allies are doing anything they can to win the war. And they have a bunch of projects, most famous of which is the bomb, the atom bomb.
Yeah.
But real life, they were also trying to build this supercomputer. And the problem they were trying to solve with ENIAC was they were trying to figure out how to calculate these huge mathematical problems for troop deployments, missile velocities and trajectories, weather patterns, because they've got to deal with all this stuff. And now it's very easy. Back then they couldn't do it by hand. They had to build something to do it. And so we proposed, okay, so they're doing this and they're building the bomb and all these other things.
Okay.
And what they inadvertently do is create the world's first AI in ENIAC.
Mm.
And so the bomb is finished. They shut down the ENIAC program. They drop the bomb on Hiroshima. In real life, 3 days later, they drop the bomb in Nagasaki. Now, this is where the comic book takes a little bit of liberties. They drop the bomb in Nagasaki 3 days later, and all of the high command at the Allies is what just happened. Another bomb was dropped. Who authorized that? How did this happen? And they get a message from ENIAC. Congratulations. You've created the world's first AI.
Wow.
I did the math. One bomb wasn't enough. I took the liberty of dropping a second.
Oh my goodness.
And then ENIAC launches 3 more, or tries to launch 3 more at the future enemies that is projecting out, the Cold War, etc. And then the backstory continues, how they tried to stop ENIAC, how the Allies have stayed the Allies for 60 years, because this is the longest period of time in modern history that a group of Allies have stayed together. And we don't really know why, in truth, in real life. And then it's convenient. We propose, okay, it's this greater threat. And we go through all of this. But the book really starts, this is the backstory, the book really starts in present day. There's 2 FBI agents. They've been hired by the Secretary of Defense. And they're told this story, and they're told, we've been trying to hack ENIAC for decades. We've discovered a program running in the background of our satellite. It's a countdown. In 3 days, this countdown ends. We think ENIAC is going to launch nukes all over the world, take out humanity. So your job is you've got to go find ENIAC. Means they've got to go back and find the original creator, the guy that smuggled it out into Russia, the people in Iran who they took down the nuclear program in the 80s, etc. You've got to track ENIAC down. You've got to figure out how to kill it. You've got to kill it before it kills all of us.
Wow.
So it's kind of a big Chris Nolan espionage science fiction story.
It's interesting how, like, the minute the AI is created, it almost becomes instantly sentient.
Yeah, and it's a common trope in storytelling. And what we propose, and without giving too much away in the book, is that the creator is very much trying to figure out how to get it to learn faster, how to teach it to ask questions. And so we try and mimic anyone that has kids. One of the fascinating things about kids is you forget, if you don't remember what you were like as a kid, and to watch them, they really are little computers struggling for their first. You can almost see the synapses connecting with their first words. And it's so fascinating how quickly they start to teach themselves to learn.
Yeah.
And so we try and mimic that a little bit. And the story is, we're certainly trying to give off a very aggressive, testosterone-driven point of view with the book. And there are components of that. But one of the things we're trying to maintain is the big finish, because Matt's come up with something really organic and surprising. And it really plays with kind of humanity, our identity, and what the human condition is. And I think people are going to be really excited about where he takes that 4th issue.
Awesome. So it'll be 4 issues total?
Yes, that's a 4-issue story.
Okay. And I read online, I went and looked it up, and I read the B-side, that you had posted for it. Which
great.
That was really cool. And I love that the line that's, like a video game with save points. I close my eyes and go back and start over. And I thought that was really interesting because you can take that, literally or figuratively. And it's an interesting way to think about memory. But he actually can rewind and go back and start over. Is he, and I know you can only tell me so much, but is there a lot of characters that have that ability, or is he specifically the only one that can do that?
He's the only one, but we've talked about, this was a much larger story that we started to play around with. And we just fell in love with the idea that you would have this team of superheroes and they would go in and immediately get killed, because it's hard, because how do they know what to do with this big threat? And you've got one character who watches them all die, reloads, explains to them, this is what we're going to try next. And he just keeps trying over and over and over again. Of course, they don't really know whether he has his power or not, because every time they do it, it seems to go right. They don't remember all the times it didn't go right. He had to reload. And also the idea that what would happen if he got to a place where the apocalypse happened, or some kind of traumatic event like that, and he tried over and over and over again, all different permutations, and everything was worse. And the best course of action for the future was this essentially Holocaust. And what would that look like? And we just thought those were 2 really interesting scenes. And so we built that as an 8-pager, and if people like it, I think we'll go and try and break the rest of the story. But our premise is that he's the one, although it is interesting, we hadn't thought about that, but there could be another. I might pitch that to the team. I'll steal that if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Happy to help.
And that's part of what we're excited about with the 8-pagers, the backup stories, the B-sides for each book, is they allow us to not have to worry about, is this a commercial enough idea to stand alone? Is there enough meat on the bones for it to be a full issue or 4 issues or ongoing? Can we do something just experimental? Can we use talent that doesn't have the time to do something more encompassing? Or maybe it's not clear if they're ready yet or not. You can find something really interesting there, and you can just push the boundaries of the medium. And very much the way that EC Comics used to do in the 50s. They got those great, weird science, weird fantasy, Tales from the Crypt stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the possibilities are limitless when you start getting into a world like that. You start creating a world, and like you said, you can have different characters that maybe don't exist in this these 4 issues, but you're like, oh, there's a spinoff here, and a way to go in this direction, or a crossover. You just never know what's going to happen, and especially when you get a response from fans, if they really are into the story. Yeah,
and it gives us the ability to kind of have fun in connecting them, playing with expectation, and really rewarding people that are there with us on this journey.
Yeah. Well, I have one comic book store where I live, and so I will be definitely.
Awesome.
I'm going to give them a call and be like, hey, you guys need to get this, because
thank you for supporting.
I need to read it. Yeah, I know for sure. And, before I let you go, I want to bring up one more thing. You have a new film company, All Nighter.
Yes.
Yes. And you've got some really cool projects coming up. Gideon Falls, Luther Strode, Final Fantasy, which I'm very excited about. I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd. So what can you tell us about that, and what's coming up with that?
All Nighter is really a spin-off from Hive Mind. What happened was we had The Witcher, which became such a huge, really cottage industry. And I can't say too much about that because Netflix may literally assassinate me. They have people watching constantly. But there's a lot, I'm even deciding what I should say, there's a lot of Witcher things coming. And we found that ourselves really building 2 companies, Hive Mind, which was the Witcher company, and then everything else that we were doing. And we found this moment in time last year where we had this first look deal on the table from Sony Pictures. We had a big video game consultancy. We had a lot of different projects, and we thought, you know what, we should just formalize this. And so we built All Nighter, and All Nighter is essentially everything we were doing at Hive Mind, other than The Witcher, and then everything else that we're doing going forward. So we're doing things like Gideon Falls, the awesome Jeff Lemire, Andre Sorrentino comic book.
Yes.
We've got I don't think it's announced. I should be careful what I say here. We've got an amazing showrunner, an amazing network on board, and that's going very well. We are doing Strange Tale of the Strode, Justin Jordan and Trad Moore's book. We've got a director on board that. I don't think we've announced that either. And sorry, I don't mean to tease.
That's all right. It is spoiler country,
Weird Fantasy, which is, we just talked about EC.
Yeah.
Is an amazing EC title that just has some of the greatest science fiction stories of all time. And we've got a massive, massive group of people. I mean, some really heavy hitting, globally renowned creators that have just knocked on our door saying, this is my favorite thing. I can't believe anyone else even knows what this is. You got to let me in. Of course, please come in. And so we'll have an announcement on that soon. I'm very excited about that. I think that'll turn some heads. That's just a crazy, the point of view on that is the showrunners have gone, it's awesome. Yeah. So we're just doing a bunch of different stuff at All Nighter. It's been a lot of fun. It's a slower process, but it's a fun world.
Yeah, much slower than that. As you said, the comic book industry goes a little bit quicker than the film industry, but the content all gets enjoyed in the end, essentially.
Yeah, and I think, and what we've done is we've really taken that Hive Mind point of view, and we've encompassed it in All Nighter. And I am hoping that what will happen is you have this hit rate as a production company that's like 150 things goes, and that Hive Mind we found a much higher hit rate, and I think that All Nighter will be even higher because we're, I guess, Jerry Maguiring it, right? It's like many less projects, much more attention to each one, a lot of love. Don't take on anything unless producers have a tendency to take something on because they think it's commercial and it's going to get made.
Right.
Like, it's okay. You guys do that. We're going to do the things that we love, whether they're commercial or not. And I think Weird Fantasy is really a testament to that model where I didn't know that anybody would care. And it's probably the thing that people have asked us the most about and the thing that's moved the fastest. I think it's a testament to following the things that you love.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I have to also ask you, when do you sleep? You are so busy.
No, you know what? I sleep well. I didn't have Valiant. There was a period of Valiant where I slept like 2 or 3 hours a night. And so really, really, really bad. I didn't know. You hear these stories. There's like a currency for I don't sleep that much. I'm such a hard worker. Or like the military, I only sleep 3 or 4 hours. All nonsense. I gave myself some physical problems for a short period of time because you really do need to sleep. No, so I sleep. But what I do is I have a team of people that I work with, like all the people at Bad Idea. Amanda Cruz is my partner at All Nighter. And it's really about making sure you're being super efficient. Brevity is very important. Being super disciplined about work and trusting, not having ego, So right now, Amanda, I'm here talking to you. I just left a meeting that I was on with Amanda on a Zoom with 2 other people we're looking to partner with. And she'll take the second half of that meeting. And the next time I'll do it and she'll be able to do something else. And you have to worry from an ego standpoint of, am I going to be cut out of something? Am I going to miss something? Is it not going to go as well? It's about finding the right people that you trust and that trust you. And I think that allows you to have that, at least a better balance, a work-life balance.
Yeah, I like that. That's really refreshing. Not something you hear often in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Trying to be a little different.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I think Bad Idea is probably going to really push some boundaries. And I'm excited to see what the content and, how you guys fare, in the coming years, because I think it's really interesting. And you're definitely stirring up, some hype, and there's a lot of talk about it. So congratulations on that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. And thanks for being on here today. It's been really fun. I've enjoyed getting to learn more about you and getting to chat, and please come back anytime to promote any of those things you couldn't talk about now, and we can maybe talk about them in the future.
It's been a blast. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the time. This is I'd love to come back.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks.
And we're back.
That's right. We are back. Back in the saddle again. Well, I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that as much as we did making it for you. And if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, you got to go check out spoilerverse.com, because at spoilerverse.com, we have a plethora. Plethora is such a snobbish word.
I like it though. It's a good word.
We have an obscene amount of interviews with amazing directors and artists of all walks of life, and editors and writers, and oh my God, are you a lover of comic books like we are? And then there's so many amazing people from the comic book world over at spoilerverse.com, and I highly implore you to go there and check it out.
Yeah, and while you're there, you can check out all the other podcasts on our network, like Bridges and Geekdoms and Funny Book Forensics and Haphazard Adventures and Nerds from the Crypt and so many more.
Misery Point
We put out
Radio.
episodes all the time. Misery Point Radio, they've got a ton of great stuff out there. Go check all of them out, and check out all of the reviews and previews and articles we have going up every single day for you, every day on spoilerverse.com for you to check out, to read, and to love, and to like, and to comment. We have a store link. You want to help support the site? You can do it two ways. One, go to our Patreon, which is just patreon.com/spoilercountry, or go to our store link in the middle of the site there and get a t-shirt, a face mask, a hoodie, something, look fly as hell, and help support the site when you do that, because we get $1 or $2. And, maybe you want to talk to us. If you do, you can do it obviously on all the socials, but if you go to scpod.us/Discord, you can join our public Discord server and come chat with us all day long.
I couldn't say it better myself, dude.
There you go.
You just mouthed out a ton of information at once. And really, I hope you guys enjoy what you're hearing, because we're working our butts off to bring it to you.
We are.
I guess there's only one left thing. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. There's only one left thing left to do.
What's that?
In an oceans of podcasts, we are Cthulhu, as Cthulhu compels you to do. Open the mind and read more.